Hello and welcome to this BookTrust Represents Author Live event. My name is Joseph Coelho and it's a complete pleasure to be joining you all today. I can sense all the many schools out there today, so I'm giving you a wave. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So, my name is Joseph Coelho and I'm a writer. I write books, many sorts of books, picture books, middle grade books and YA books. And you can see some of them on your screen now. And today I'm here to tell you a bit about how I got into writing, to share some ways that you can get writing, and to tell you all about this fantastic book, Happy Here, an anthology that features 10 black writers and illustrators. And I've got a short story in this book, and I'm going to be sharing you the first chapter from that story later on. So how did I get into writing? Well, it all started when I was very young. When I was a kid. This is me as a kid. Aren't I cute? Yes, I know. Oh, thank you. Oh, please stop. That was me as a little boy in my estate in Roehampton. So I grew up in Roehampton, a large council estate. Now, even though it was a large built-up estate, it was plonked in the middle of a very green area. So as you can see here, there are lots of trees and grass and bushes behind me, and I'm playing out at the bottom of my block. And what I didn't realise was that I was getting ideas for stories and poems just by observing the world around me. As I got older, I kept going outside. I kept being inspired by the great outdoors. Here I am, about 12 or 13, on a school trip, on an adventure holiday. And I'm pulling this rather silly pose because I'm pretending to be a velociraptor. Now, this was when the first Jurassic Park came out. You guys are lucky, you have about 5 Jurassic Parks. When I was a kid, there was one. Just one Jurassic Park. You can ask your teachers, it's absolutely true. There was just one. We'd never seen CGI dinosaurs and were amazed by them. And me and my friends realised that if we pulled up our trouser legs, we could do very good dinosaur impressions. So this is my impression of a velociraptor. You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down at your screens right now if you think it's a good velociraptor impression or a bad one. Hopefully you think it's a good one. But I was messing about outside with my friends and family, getting ideas for poems and for stories. And I would take those ideas back to the classroom. This is me with my friend James in school, and we're smiling because we're writing poems, we're writing stories, hopefully to go on that very blank display board behind us. I imagine that's what we were doing. This is the block of flats that I grew up in. It's a big brutalist block of flats, so the style of architecture is called brutalism. And whilst the block is very harsh, what I loved about it was the height. From the height of Binley House, I could see for miles. I could see Richmond Park. I could see the tops of the trees and the bushes, and I would get inspired by those views. I could see the sun rise and the sun set, and ideas for stories started making their way into my mind. I would look at my block and get inspired to write poems. That's something that you can do, maybe with the building you live in, maybe with a building that you know. On your screens now, I've got a little example of how you can turn any building into a poem. I've got 4 little sentences, sentence openers here, about my old block, Binley House. It says aerials like, so that's a simile starter. And if you look at the top of the photo, there are some aerials, a bit like a crown on top of the block of flats. What do those aerials remind you of? What are they like? Are they like spikes? Are they like daggers? What about the balconies? The long straight balconies that go along the front of the building. What are they like? What do they remind you of? Are they like bowling alleys? Are they like hospital corridors? What about the windows? What are they like? Spider's eyes? What about the pillars at the bottom of the block? What are they like? Are they like elephant legs? If you want, later on, you can come back to the video and pause at this point, and you can have a go at writing your own poem about Binley House, using these sentence openers, using these similes. And then maybe later on you can have a go at doing your own building, a building that you live in. It might be a house, it might be a maisonette, it might be a flat like mine, or maybe you could do a simile poem about your school. Just by observing the world around us, we can start to find poetry, because poetry is hiding everywhere. From the other side of my block of flats was this huge bush, and here you can see the block of flats just poking its head above the bush. Now, I could see this bush from my bedroom window, and it was hiding a secret garden, an old Victorian garden. Because as well as having lots of blocks of flats in Roehampton, there were also lots of mansions. Because over 200 years ago, Roehampton was the countryside. And people, very rich people, would come to the countryside and build their huge houses. So right next to my block of flats was this huge mansion with a big Victorian garden. And me and my friends would know a secret path through the bush where there was an overgrown stairway. And we would go up those stairs and hang out in the garden and have picnics and play out there and imagine what must have happened there 200 years previously. From my bedroom window, I would look down on the bushes and imagine magical creatures living inside the trees and inside the bushes. Those ideas actually went to inspire a poem that I wrote in this book, Poems Aloud, which is illustrated by Daniel Gray Barnett. I'm going to share this poem with you now. It's a Shakespearean sonnet. Give me a thumbs up if you know who Shakespeare is. I'm sure many of you do. Shakespeare wrote many plays, but he also wrote many poems. He wrote sonnets, and he wrote them in his own style, with his own pattern and rhythm. So this is an example of a Shakespearean sonnet written by me, and it's called Something Wondrous. Peer from your window in the deep of night. Watch as the moon is tickled by the stars. Take a deep breath and hold it tight. Fantastic creatures roam near and far. A unicorn nibbles the gold leaf tree. Hobgoblins fist fight in every flower. Mermaids flop from a luminescing sea. Earth giants show off their hidden power. Look out from your window of midnight snow. Watch as their gold eyes stare back. Gasp as their curiosity grows. Have no fear, they won't attack. These creatures have seen something wondrous too. These creatures are awed by the sight of you. So that's a Shakespearean sonnet. What makes it a Shakespearean sonnet is that regular rhyme scheme. So you might have noticed that the first line rhymes with the third line and the second line rhymes with the fourth line in every verse or stanza of the poem. The last two lines also rhyme together, but they also do another thing. They reinterpret or give you a surprise, shall we say, at the end of the poem. And Shakespeare would do this a lot. He would set something up in the main body of the poem and then switch it on its head at the end. And I've tried to do that here. So the main body of the poem is about a child looking out from their window at all these magical creatures and being awed. But by the end, we discover that the magical creatures are just as shocked and awed at seeing the child at the window. So that's a Shakespearean sonnet. And maybe later on you guys can have a go at checking out some of Shakespeare's other sonnets, some of his sonnets, and having a go at writing your own. That'd be good. As I get older, I kept writing poems and I started to perform them. Here I am performing a poem at Battersea Arts Centre on stage in front of a live audience. Now, as you can see, I'm holding a piece of paper, several pieces of paper in fact, that are very folded and very creased, because I would work on the poem, fold it up, pull it in my pocket, take it out, make a change, fold it up, put it in my pocket, take it out, make a change, fold it up, put it in my pocket. And I kept doing that again and again and again until I felt the poem was ready to be performed. And so by the time I performed it on stage, it was very creased and looking slightly battered as it is there in the photo. But by doing this, I learnt to get better at writing. I learnt what poets need to do to entertain an audience. I learnt what things the audience like to listen to, what parts of the poem made them gasp, what parts made them shocked, what parts made them sad, what parts made them laugh. And that made me a better writer and led to me going on to write lots of different things.